What's up, y'all? It is your girl, Ashley Ross, and I'm here to bring you week 18 of the Ashley Ross Show. We made it through the longest regular season ever, through a lot of COVID protocols, injuries, but we are here, and now we are gearing up for Wild Card Weekend. But before we get into the Wild Card Weekend, let's get started with how we got there in week 18. Let's start with the Saturday games, Chiefs versus the Broncos. This game really did not do a lot of confidence building for me with the Chiefs. I do feel like they had found their stride. I was willing to give them a pass, that they were back. We need to stop questioning this offense, what's going on with them. But the fact that they really almost lost to the Broncos, and the only reason they didn't is because the Broncos fumbled and the Chiefs returned it, is highly questionable to me for the Chiefs going into a playoff run. Now, the good news is, everybody is looking a little shaky right now. There's no one team, I would say, other than the Packers, and we'll get into them a little bit later, that I'm really just having overwhelming confidence that, oh yeah, they're looking good, they're going to go on a run. This is really up for grabs. So the Chiefs, they're kind of middle of the pack, but we have been accustomed to the Chiefs being Super Bowl or bust. So they got to turn on the Jets in the postseason. Cowboys versus the Eagles. Now, the Eagles were without Jalen Hurts, and it showed. Minshew Mania was not there. The Cowboys put up a 50 burger. Yes, this was good for the Cowboys in the sense that, you get a good win going into the playoffs. You played Saturday, so you get an extra day of rest. That's all good, but I still have questions about the Cowboys' offense and their defense. Pollard, I don't know what the health status of him is, and I understand that Zeke was or is an all-world running back, but I think that their system really goes as Pollard goes as well. So that's something to keep an eye on. Defensively, I love me some Trayvon Diggs, but again, he's very high risk, high reward to me. The Cowboys, I just have questions. I don't know what's going to happen come playoff time, but I'm not going in with a boat of confidence. The Eagles, like I said, they were without Hurts. Were they just trying to get healthy and kind of get into the playoffs? Absolutely. So we will see their first round matchup. Can they go against the GOAT? Bengals versus the Browns. This game was kind of a wash because the Bengals were resting their starters, which is smart because, listen, the whole point is to make it and be healthy for the playoffs. They had already secured the AFC North. So they said, look, Joe Burrow, you sit down, you get healthy. Joe Mixon, I believe he was out with COVID. So they're just waiting to get everybody back for their playoff run. Now, the Browns. The Browns obviously weren't playing for anything, but the biggest question mark with the Browns is, what do you do with Baker Mayfield? My solution is bring in some competition. We have seen that Baker Mayfield throughout his career, he does well when his back is against the wall and when he has to show up and show out. So I think that if they bring in a formidable quarterback, no offense to Case Keenum, but not Case Keenum, somebody with a little bit more of a name, a little bit more of cachet, not Ryan Fitzpatrick, if they bring somebody in to really get him going like, hey, I need to step up and earn this job and get my money and not just live off the Allstate commercials, I think we will see a great Baker Mayfield. Packers versus the Lions. Now, it was a little controversial that the Packers played in the first half and everybody said, but they could risk injury. This is bad. Anything could happen. That's true, but if they want to play, let them play. They knew the risk involved. They wanted to play, and they know, hey, we have the first week bye. If we don't play this week, we know we're not playing next week. That's almost 3 weeks of not playing football. So I get the Packers wanting to play. When Aaron Rodgers says he wants to play, what are you going to say? No, it was smart. They took him out in the second half, but I want to give a lot of credit to the Lions. The Detroit Lions, even though their record does not look great on paper, this team all year played with a lot of heart, a lot of enthusiasm, and they never gave up. And that is really hard when you know going into work every day that we're not good, that we're not going to win, and that we are going to again be roasted in the league. So I give Dan Quinn and that locker room a lot of credit. Was the whole kneecap bitten off? No, but a little piece was bitten this season, and Dan Quinn has definitely earned the right to coach the Lions next year. Washington versus the Giants. Washington, they're another team. They don't have the greatest record, but they play with a lot of heart, a lot of moxie. The thing with Washington is, yes, they did have some key injuries, but number one, they've got to solidify the quarterback position. And I love me some Taylor Heineke. He's a gamer. He plays hard. But is he the long-term future? I'm not sold on that just yet. Defensively, I understand the injury to Chase Young. That definitely changed things for them. But I would like to see them come out next season and really have that veracity that we expected when they did have Chase Young. So there's definitely room for improvement with Washington. They're a couple pieces away, but they have the right stuff. They have the right leadership. And who knows what they're going to be called next season. I hope it's not one of these corny names that have been in circulation. Please do right. I mean, everything is a step up from the former name, but please don't give some corny Pop Warner name. Don't do it. Colts versus the Jaguars. This was the first major upset of the day that really started to shuffle the AFC playoff picture and send everything into playoff chaos, which we love in Week 18. What does this game say more about, the Colts or the Jaguars? Well, I think a little bit of both. This is what we kind of expected to see from Trevor Lawrence all season. And I think if they get the right head coach in there and the right system, he can thrive. I mean, there's a reason why he was dubbed the #1 pick, generational changing quarterback. I believe in Trevor Lawrence still, but they need to get the coaching right. Byron Leftwich, that's all I'm saying. Bill O'Brien, no, he sold D-Hop for a bag of chips. I don't know why they want these retreads who did nothing. Why don't you pick the guy that's working with the GOAT? But I digress on that point. To the Colts. Colts, this was really disappointing as an NFL fan because we don't get to see just how far the Colts could go. And if you're the Colts, you have to ask yourself the real question. Do we feel 100% comfortable with Carson Wentz at the helm going forward? I know you've taken on his contract, but with Jonathan Taylor solidifying himself as one of the best running backs in the league and that defense, the maniac, the pieces that they have, the offensive line, it is crucial that your quarterback be that guy. My bold prediction, I believe that there's been rumblings in Seattle that Russell wants out. If I was Russell and I was looking at anywhere, just football-wise, I would try to force my way to the Colts. And the Colts should try to force their way to Russell because truly they are a quarterback away from winning it all. Steelers versus the Ravens. With the Colts losing, that opened the door for the Ravens and the Steelers to get into the playoffs. They just couldn't tie. And they went all the way to OT, and the Steelers somehow, some way, ended up in the playoffs if the Chargers and the Raiders didn't tie. I think we all at this point know all the playoff scenarios by the amount of times we had to hear them yesterday, so you all know that. Let's start first with the Ravens. The Ravens, they had a ton of injuries this season. Are you going to call the season a wash because of the injuries? Somewhat, but I also think that there are still some questions about Lamar and his passing ability. And I love Lamar, but that's just an honest question. And now with his health and durability, this was always the concern about his style of play. Next year, that's going to be a very defining year for Lamar and the Ravens of the direction they're going to go forward. To the Steelers, I don't know how the Steelers are in the playoffs. I really sincerely do not know. I mean, they just got kicked in by Kansas City 2 weeks ago, and now they're in the playoffs. I guess they want to send Big Ben out with a bang. They're going to have a tough first round matchup, but hey, anything can happen come playoff time. Titans versus the Texans. The Titans, they just feel like the most unlikely 1 seed that we've had in a while. They just don't scare me. And to me, the 1 seed, they should scare you a little bit. Like Green Bay, they scare me a little bit because I know they've got Aaron Rodgers, they've got a good defense, they've got a running back, Devontae Adams. Like they have pieces that scare me. With the Titans, it's kind of like, how did you get here? You know, like how did you end up at this party? Were you on the list? Obviously they were because they had a great record, so that's how they got here. But there are just question marks that I have with the Titans. We will see what they look like with Derrick Henry. The Texans have a Deshaun Watson problem. It's just plain and simple. At this point, is there truly still a market for Deshaun Watson? We don't know how all of his litigation is going to play out, the civil suits, all of that. Is there a team that is willing to give up their draft capital to get Deshaun at this point? If it was me, personally, no. There are just too many outside factors that are at play that I would not feel comfortable risking my team's future and risking high draft picks. Saints versus the Falcons. To the Saints' credit, they did what they needed to do to possibly put themselves in a playoff position. They needed to win and hope that the 49ers would lose. And the 49ers were losing for a lot of that game. We'll get into that a little bit later. The Saints, I'm going to be honest, I didn't want to see the Saints in the playoffs. I didn't want to see which third stringer quarterback they could put together. I know that they have a decent defense, but nobody wanted to see that team in the playoffs. I'm just being honest. Saints, They've got QB questions. Jameis, prior to the injury, he looked good. I don't know why they keep giving Taysom Hill these extensions. And are they trying to make him a quarterback? Are they trying to make him a wildcat type player? I don't know what they want to do with Taysom. So they've got some things that they need to figure out in the post-Drew Brees era. I know that was supposed to be this year, but we're extending that to next year for the Saints. The Falcons, blow the whole thing up. It's over. It's done. Finito. It's just, I don't understand how you go from being in the Super Bowl less than 5 years ago to almost winning the Super Bowl to now just being so abysmal. And y'all know I don't feel that high on Matt Ryan, but I'm not even going to put it all on Matt Ryan. The Falcons have a lot of needs that need to be addressed in the offseason. Clean house, blow this thing up, and start again. Jets versus the Bills. Robert Saleh, we need a new motto, a new rallying cry. Something needs to change with the Jets in 2022 because this is not going to cut it. And I am afraid that you will be on the hot seat very early because you cannot draft a top 5 quarterback and he look this bad, the team look this bad, and think that you're going to be able to retain a job. Now, I don't think it's all on Robert Saleh. There was injuries. There were other things going on. But the coach is usually the first thing that they will get rid of. So, Robert, we need to improve in 2022. The Bills are playing solid right now. Am I overly impressed with the Bills? No, but to be honest, I'm not overly impressed with anybody out of the AFC and most of the NFC outside of the GOAT and Aaron Rodgers. This is a playoff picture that is really wide open, truly, this season. Now, I do think that the Bills have a really great thing going for them, and that is Devin Singletary. They have finally established the run, and this is going to be a key come playoff time when you have to play on the road sometimes, when you have to play in different elements. You can't pass it all the time, so you need to have a good, solid running back, and that is what Devin Singletary has proven to be. So, go Bills Mafia. 49ers versus the Rams. This was a great game. The 49ers, there are just some teams that when you see them play other teams, you know they have this team's number. And that is the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan when they play Sean McVay and the Rams. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, the 49ers have the Rams number. And it did not look like this most of the game. It really looked like with the Saints winning and the 49ers losing, and they love to throw out Sean McVay is undefeated when he is leading at the half. Well, not yesterday. And that is because of one, Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G, he was really sorry in the first half. To be honest, was like, they need to put Trey in the second. But they stuck with Jimmy and Deebo Samuel. The most impressive thing to me about the 49ers is it doesn't matter the score, the circumstance. They just have such a championship mentality, and you can't teach that. And the 49ers, when all odds are looking like they're against them, they find a way to win. They found a way to get into the playoffs. And the 49ers are one of the most dangerous teams to me because they can beat you so many different ways. I still have questions with Jimmy G, but one thing you can't say, he is clutch. The Rams, this is not necessarily how you want to go into the playoffs with an L on your resume to a division rival. But the Rams, they're still a threatening team. I have my questions with the Rams about Matthew Stafford and him seeing ghosts sometimes out there on that field. So we're going to see what the Rams are really made of. We know they're Showtime. We know they're Inglewood, LA. Let's see how well the Rams do in the playoffs with Odell and the all-star crew that they have assembled. Patriots versus the Dolphins. This is another team, the Dolphins, that just seem to have the Patriots number. I don't know what it is, but they seem to have their number. The Patriots, they've fallen a little bit in my eyes. They are not as stout as I held them at one point in the season. Now, I am not counting out Bill Belichick because we know time and time again, this is where Bill makes a name for himself, and this is why he is revered as one, if not the best coaches ever, because what he does better than anybody else is he takes away the thing that you do best. So Bill Belichick in the playoffs, you can't count him out. To the Dolphins, this may on the surface have been one of the more shocking firings just because the Dolphins, even though they didn't make the playoffs, a lot of people felt like this is a good team. But I think when you really dissect some of the dynamics that went on, it makes sense why they would part ways with Brian Flores. Number one, I just think the handling of the Tua situation, when he came into the league, is it him? Is it Ryan Fitzpatrick? And they didn't really give Tua that room in his rookie season to get that in-game experience and to go out in difficult moments and be that guy. Then you look at the handling of the Xavier Howard situation. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and the fact that they were kind of trying to shortchange him and he had to come out publicly and state his case does not send a good message to the rest of your team and to the guys that don't have the cachet that he has, because if they would treat you like this, who's me, 53rd man on the roster, how are they going to treat me? And the fact that you really didn't take a step forward in the division. It's now the Bills, Patriots, and it's always been the Patriots, but now the Bills are a bigger factor because you haven't made the postseason. You factor all these things in, you gotta go. And sometimes the coach does end up being the fall man in these situations, but I truly believe this is the best thing for the Dolphins moving forward. I hope they do get a good head coach in there, but this is gonna be the best thing for continuity long term. Speaking of long-term futures, Seahawks versus the Cardinals. Now, all signs are heading for divorce of either Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson. It does not feel like they will be together next season. As I'm recording this, they are still together as of now, but that could obviously change. Personally, I think that Russell wants out. He has made enough underlying statements, thrown out his trade list. Russell wants out of Seattle. I don't fully blame him. He never really has had a great offensive line to protect him, but if you want out, just want out. Don't keep going back and forth and making these underlying comments. Make it happen behind the scenes. Let us heal and let us all move forward. To the Cardinals, though, I will say that the Cardinals, they're kind of giving me the Steeler vibes from last season. Remember, the Steelers started off like 8-0, and everybody thought the Steelers were a threatening team, and then the Steelers didn't even make the playoffs last year. That's how the Cardinals feel this season. They just dropped too many significant games, and I understand no D-Hop, that's going to affect any team, but the Cardinals, there is just more question marks than answers, and I don't feel really confident with them going into the playoffs. I think they could easily be a one-and-done team. So we're going to see what the Cardinals are truly made of. Panthers versus the Buccaneers. If you're living under a rock, Antonio Brown is no longer a Buccaneer, and he pretty much spent the whole week explaining why he is no longer a Buccaneer. We have given enough time and energy to that. Let's focus to the game at hand. The Buccaneers, I really like the way that they came out. Now, I get it. It is against the Panthers, but I love the way that they came out, and this is how you need to be playing going into the playoffs. And as much as I do have a couple questions about the Buccaneers, you can never count out Tom Brady, the GOAT. So for that reason, the Buccaneers are still a possible threat to me in the NFC playoff picture. The Panthers, this is my issue with the Panthers and management and people that pick these coaches. Why do you guys get these coaches that have never coached in the NFL, that are a retread coach, and give them these massive contracts when they haven't earned it? I can see if a guy has, deep playoff experience, a Super Bowl, a lot of hardware to justify at the NFL level why he is worth the money you are giving up. But it just seems like they give just anybody these massive contracts. It doesn't work out. And then instead of swallowing their pride and eating these contracts, they just stick it out. I don't know. I don't feel that bad for the Panthers. I feel bad for Christian McCaffrey. They need to solidify the QB position. Sam Darnold wasn't the answer. I love Cam, but he wasn't the answer. They got to figure out some things on the Panthers side. Buccaneers, I think that they could go on a run. And now to the main event. Chargers versus the Raiders, Sunday Night Football. Win and you're in the playoffs. Actually, if you tie, you're both in, but win and you are surely in. This was one of the best football games I have ever seen, and partially because the whole time my heart felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. Everybody at this point knows I am riding with the Raiders. I love a true underdog story. I really do. And I love a team that is battle tested, that has been through adversity. And that is the definition of the Raiders. I have a lot of respect for the Chargers as well, but the Raiders, they just were able to grab hold of my heart. To the game itself. There were so many questionable calls in this game against the Raiders. Let me just say that. I don't understand how at the end of regulation, if he went out in bounds, how was that not a running clock and the clock would have ran out and the Raiders win that game? So I don't understand that. Please explain that one to me. But we get to overtime and pretty much we didn't know, are they going to tie? Are they going to go for the win? Brandon Staley. I like Brandon Staley, but I don't love some of Brandon Staley's play callings, and I've said it multiple times this season. this moxie, this going for fourth down, it will come back to bite you. And that's exactly what happened. The problem with all these analytics people is analytics does not take into account momentum and the feel for the game. And to be honest, that is where good coaching, aka great coaching, comes in, because you have to have a real feel for the game. And when you turn over the ball in your opponent's territory on the 19-yard line, you're not having a good feel for the game, because that is automatic points. Football is a very complex game, but it's also very simple. Usually the teams that win the turnover battle, they win the game. So when you turn it over on fourth down and you do it in your opponent's territory, that gives them automatic points. Also, too, the timeout in overtime, I don't know what Brandon Staley was doing. If I'm management, I'm saying, look, Brandon, I do like what you're putting in here. We've got Herbert. You've done some really good things. But we need to talk about some of these questionable decisions that have truly cost the Chargers at points. To the Raiders. The Raiders are just like the little engine that could. Against all odds, somehow, some way, the Raiders find themselves in the playoffs. And you've got to give credit to Derek Carr. He is one of the most disrespected quarterbacks out here, but he is clutch. He does come through for you. And I just love a great football story, and that's what we got on Sunday. It has been an amazing season. The postseason is here. I cannot wait to see what all of these teams will do. And that brings us to our wild card matchups. I'm not going to give my picks right now, but be on the lookout on my Instagram at AshleyRoss3 for some analysis and maybe some guests to go over the picks with me this week. Starting on Saturday, we have the Raiders at Bengals. That's going to be at 1:30 Pacific time. Then we have the Patriots at Bills. That's going to be at 5:15. On Sunday, we have 3 games. We have the Eagles at Buccaneers. That's going to be at 10 a.m. Pacific time. The 49ers at Cowboys. That's going to be at 1:30. And then the Steelers at Chiefs, that's going to be at 5:15. And for the first time ever, we have Monday night playoff football. That is going to be the Cardinals at Rams. That's going to be a great game at 5:15 p.m. Pacific time. I am so excited. I can't wait. It has been such an incredible season, like I said, and we're just getting started. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in this week. I appreciate it. Again, I hope you enjoyed your Christmas, your New Year's. We are back with playoff football, so that means you get a few more weeks of the Ashley Ross Show. Again, thank you for joining. I hope everybody's New Year is going well. Thank you, and have a great week. Bye, y'all.